Dee Anderson is the Tarrant County Sheriff and helped to develop the Amber Alert and the Amber Alert Network. Whenever we have questions about how it works, we ask him to come down. So, Sheriff, we really appreciate you coming in tonight. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right. It's not your investigation, but this girl is from your county. Should a statewide Amber Alert be helping to find her?
You know, Steve, there are some things that make this a very difficult case. Number one, it really wasn't an abduction to begin with. The girl left voluntarily. Certainly now they feel like she's in danger. So the initial talk about the case was, though, that it was a runaway. So they were working initially with a voluntary disappearance. Second of all, remember that these alerts are meant to use within hours, and days went by before they realized what had happened. And the third thing you have to remember, the bread and butter of the statewide plan is the highway signs. And without a vehicle description to put on a highway sign, you're really not having much effect on any plan. Someone driving along at 60 or 70 miles an hour has a difficult enough time looking and finding a vehicle description on the sign, much less trying to put a physical description or some information like that. The characters on those signs are very limited. They can put very little information on those. So really, I think that particularly the fact that she was already so far gone, probably in El Paso before they even talked about issuing the alert, made it really a moot point at this time.
I got that, but I think some people, for some people anyway, a picture, or we've got plenty of pictures of these too, those go further in their memory than, it's a silver sedan, license plate, whatever. Aren't pictures almost just as descriptive for people?
Pictures are, but as I say, remember the statewide plan really distributes information through the highway signs on the state highways. You get very little physical description or very little pictures out through the statewide plan. It mainly is used on the control of the highway sign. So, it certainly has its benefits. There's no doubt about it. But without a vehicle to put into the highway signs, the state plan becomes much, much less effective than if you have a license plate number or a real distinctive vehicle description.
And to that, I know you do care about the credibility of Amber Alerts, but in March, and I know you'll remember this one, we had a Dallas kid who was said walked away from his house. There was a statewide Amber Alert, walks back a couple of days later, and I looked at the Amber Alert. The first one did not have a vehicle description, and I think people compare these kinds of things, and they just don't get it. You understand that, right?
Yeah, right. And if you remember, that turned out to be a hoax. There was not a kidnapping at all. And I think every time that the state is contacted, from my work with them, I know that they give due diligence to the information that they've got. They make the very best decision they can make down there in Austin, whether the alert's going to be issued or not. They get hundreds of requests a year down there for statewide alerts, and they have to be diligent in their screening of those. And so I think that they just went with what their best feeling was on that, and they felt like that in this case it wasn't an appropriate use of the statewide system.
Can that change? I mean, we got plenty of pictures, security video. You focused on the street signs, but when an Amber Alert goes out, it also goes on the news, and pictures go out on the descriptions go on the radio. Can that change? Could they put one out, say, tonight?
Well, it can always change. Certainly, they can put out more information, but remember that the statewide plan really doesn't do a huge media blitz like a regional plan does. But they could get more information out without a doubt, and it certainly is not too late to put more information out. But I think, you've got a lot of media coverage of this all over from what I'm seeing, and I don't know that at this point in time it would benefit a great deal, but it could always change. The state could always make the decision that now they have enough information that they'll go ahead and issue it, but I honestly don't know if that will happen or not.
And you have no doubt, the facts is this young girl's in danger?
Oh, I think so. I think it's clear now that she is, and I don't think anybody disputes that at this point. Yeah. I think the problem was that when they first got the case, it looked like somebody that voluntarily left home with someone. It was treated as a runaway, and from what I've seen of the case, rightfully so. It certainly wasn't an abduction to begin with. If she's being held against her will now, then that certainly changes the game, no doubt. But what the officers and the investigators had to deal with early on was the fact that this was a voluntary runaway with someone that she'd met apparently over the internet, which sadly and unfortunately is fairly common in today's world.
Yeah, and she may still be willing, but she's 14, and she may be a sexual assault victim. So, all right, Sheriff, the Amber Alert system has found more than 500 children safely nationwide, and congratulations on that. And we do thank you for joining us tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, and you're very welcome.